Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel, and this video we will discuss the most important events that took place in the world during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And once again, first of all, we will talk about oil prices because currently this is the most important situation. Everything depends on this. And according to media, the United States of America have almost completely stabilized the oil market. So first, before we start, let's compare the oil prices between the current situation or the situation when I started making this video and the situation with oil prices when I started making the previous video. So as of this morning, the oil prices were at the next levels. WTI crude $95.33 per barrel. Brent crude was on the level of $100.33 per barrel. So these are the prices when I started making this video. If you remember yesterday, during the previous video, we also discussed oil prices, and yesterday the prices were on the level of $95.17 for WTI and $99.66 for Brent crude. As you can see, just during the previous 12 hours, oil prices have grown, but not so fast, and they have not so much in comparison with the previous days, which means that this is something like a signal that the oil market is about to be stabilized by the United States of America. And to stabilize this market, the United States of America was forced to make several things. First of all, and the most important is that the United States has authorized the sale of Russian oil and petroleum products loaded onto vessels since March 12th. This information was published on the official US website. Another important thing is that the United States authorized to sell Russian oil, and we see that the President of the United States of America was forced to do this. This step made by the United States of America allowed the oil market to be stabilized at least a little bit, but from the other side, now we start receiving reports that the Russians began earning a lot of money on this. For example, the Russian representatives stated that Russia rakes in 150 million a day in extra revenue from surging oil prices. This information was confirmed by different sources. And for example, Kirill Dmitriev, the representative of the Russian Federation, we are familiar with him on the topics of negotiation process with Ukraine, and with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. He stated that, and this is just the beginning of the largest energy crisis ever. Financial Times stated that Russia rakes in 150 million a day in extra revenue from surging oil prices. So this is a very important situation because now the Russians are earning money to finance the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, not just till the end of 2026, but the Russians will try to do this, will try to get money to sponsor the conflict, to finance the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, even probably for the 2027s and even maybe for 2028. So another important step that was made by the United States of America to stabilize oil prices was that the United States of America promised to release 172 million barrels of oil from its strategic reserve. But this information was stated by the United States of America yesterday, and after this statement was released, it didn't help to stabilize oil prices. And the main problem of this is that currently the strategic oil reserves in the United States of America are at their lowest level in the last 30 years. So the current level of strategic reserves is at the level of 415 million. So imagine yourself, if the United States of America releases 172 million, this means that the United States of America will release up to 40% of its strategic reserves, which means that this is basically impossible. Each state has the lowest level, and the statements that states will release additional 40% probably sounds like a very, very funny joke or something like this. So probably most of the investors understood this, so that is why yesterday the situation where the oil market wasn't stabilized by at least these actions from the United States of America. Few more interesting statements are coming from Iran and from the area of the Middle East that also helped the United States of America to stabilize the oil market. For example, we received received an information that Iraqi oil tankers can cross the Strait of Hormuz, and that was stated by the Iran's ambassador to Baghdad. So this is a very important piece of news. Now we see that not just Iran but also Iraq will be able to sell oil and to export oil, which obviously will reduce the pressure on the global oil market. And another important statement was made by the Iranians themselves. Today, according to information we have, the Iranian foreign minister officially announced that Iran does not install sea mines in the Strait of Hormuz, which means that the Strait of Hormuz will not be blocked completely by the Iranian forces. So these four things, maybe something else, but these four main things help the United States of America to stabilize the oil prices and the oil market. But anyway, at the same time, we see that the oil prices are still growing, which means that they will grow maybe not so fast, but they will continue growing, which means that the United States of America most likely would be forced to make additional small steps with the purpose to stabilize the prices completely and to hold them on the level of $100 per barrel, and that's it. So the question is, let's move to the Middle East, and the question is why Iraq was allowed to use the Strait of Hormuz. So of course this is a very important question, because if you remember, several days ago the Iranians stated that the Middle East states must complete two conditions if they want to use Strait of Hormuz, and one of them was to force the US or Israeli embassies to quit their territories. This is what the first condition, and the second condition was that the territory of this or that state shouldn't be used by the coalition to attack the territory of Iran. So let's discuss what has changed on the territory of Iraq. So Iraq was allowed to start using Strait of Hormuz for export purposes, and the thing is that currently on the territory of Iraq is a real guerrilla war taking place. During the previous 24 hours, during the previous night, the biggest number of updates we received exactly from this area. We can see not just clashes between pro-Iranian forces and bases of the United States of America, we can see a full-scale resistance of the local population against the bases and the assets of the coalition on the territory of this state. So the most important updates we received exactly from this area. For example, during the previous 24 hours, we received updates that the coalition forces began bombing and attacking bases of pro-Iranian forces in the area of the city of Baghdad. We haven't seen something like this for a very long period of time. Another important thing is that, according to information we have, there are very heavy clashes in the area of the city of Erbil. The sources stated that the Iranians attacked air base of France in this area, and the sources reported that at least one helicopter was hit and at least 6 French soldiers were injured, which is obviously the biggest escalation between France and Iran since ever. Another important thing that the clashes continue around the US base in the area of the city of Erbil. During the previous nights, the Iranians attacked the base of the United States of America in this area with missiles. Of course, the United States of America were launching significant number of air defense missiles with the purpose to destroy the Iranian drones and ballistic missiles, and let's say that there are very heavy clashes. Furthermore, we received a report that the Iranians attacked oil facility in the area of the city of Lajan. The sources are saying that this oil refinery belonged to companies who has relations either with the United States of America or with Israel. And of course, the most important update that as a result of guerrilla warfare, as I understand, the United States of America lost at least one aircraft. Yesterday in the evening, US Central Command made a very important statement. US Central Command is aware of the loss of a US refueling aircraft. The incident occurred in friendly airspace during Operation Epic Fury, and rescue efforts are ongoing. 2 aircrafts were involved in the incident. One of the aircraft went down in western Iraq and the second landed safely. So we see that currently the resistance in Iraq is growing, and we see that probably we can see the beginning of the ground operation, of the ground clashes between the coalition forces and pro-Iranian proxies resources exactly on the territory of the state. So maybe this is the reason why Iraq was allowed to use the Strait of Hormuz for export purposes, because we see that probably today on the 30th of March of 2026, the Iraqis have chosen the side. Now let's move further. Another important thing, during the previous 24 hours, during the previous night, the Iranians continue attacking the Persian Gulf. The most important updates are coming from the United Arab Emirates, because according to information we have, the Iranians attacked the city of Dubai, and they attacked skyscrapers and buildings in the central part of the city. The financial center of United Arab Emirates was attacked by the Iranians. Different international financial organizations began evacuation of their staff from the United Arab Emirates, and according to information we have, the Dubai Financial Market Property Index has fallen by 30% since the start of the conflict with Iran. We see that the states of the Persian Gulf are very close to a complete bankruptcy. Most likely this is going to happen. Another important thing is that according to the Iranian sources, the Iranians attacked the Abraham Lincoln fighting carrier group in the area of the Arabian Sea. The Iranians stated that the US stated that several vessels were trying to approach the US Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier group, but those vessels were damaged and destroyed, and this is the information that was published by pro-Western sources. As for the pro-Ukrainian sources, they are stating that at least the Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier group was damaged, and currently Abraham Lincoln is moving forward in the southern direction to stay on the safe side and to keep a safe distance between the carrier group itself and the southeastern part of Iran. Furthermore, during the previous night, we received videos and satellite pictures of the US aircraft carrier US Gerald R. Ford, and he was spotted less than 370 kilometers south of Israel in the Red Sea. We see that the United States of America is moving the aircraft carrier group in the direction of Abraham Lincoln carrier group with the purpose to reinforce their group and then to increase the pressure on the southeastern part of the state of Iran. So we see that the situation is very difficult right now. We continue receiving updates of airstrike of collision on positions of the Iranians in the southwestern parts of Iran along the Persian Gulf. Lots of videos were published from this area. Lots of explosions were recorded. At the same time, we continue receiving updates on the Iranian strikes on the infrastructure and military assets of the coalition in the Middle East as well. We see that the conflict won't stop. The only thing that as of the beginning of the 13th of March of 2026, the coalition have managed to achieve is to stabilize the oil market. And when the oil market is stabilized completely, then most likely the United States of America will begin the operation in full strength. Now let's return to Ukraine and let's discuss the situation in this area. According to information we have, during the previous night, the Ukrainians launched another massive drone and missile attack in the direction of the southern regions of the Russian Federation. Once again, according to different sources, according to media, the Ukrainians are trying to target in military infrastructure and oil infrastructure, gas infrastructure, energy infrastructure that the Russians use to supply the state of Turkey and several European countries with gas and oil via the Black Sea pipelines. We're talking about the Turkish pipeline and Blue pipeline. So the Ukrainians, it seems, are trying to attack this infrastructure with the purpose to cut the Russian export capabilities. During the previous night, we received several videos of the consequences of attacks from the Ukrainian side. If you remember, yesterday the Ukrainians attacked the Tikharetska oil refinery, and very heavy explosion and fire was recorded from this area. And today we received fresh satellite pictures where we can see the consequences of attack. And as you can see, just one reservoir was attacked and destroyed by the Ukrainians. Very difficult to say whether the Russians managed to save the rest of reservoirs, because as you can see, the distance is very small, probably and very likely, and there are very high chances that just as a result of attack on one reservoir, the rest of reservoirs could be destroyed as well. The Russians are saying this morning that during the previous nights, they just overnight, they managed to bring down around 176 drones that were flying in the southern direction, the direction of the southern Russia. Lots of drones were destroyed exactly in this area. As of the beginning of the 13th of March of 2026, we haven't received anything that can confirm that Ukrainians managed to deal significant damage to the Russian positions and facilities, but maybe during the day we will receive some. Furthermore, pro-Ukrainian sources published lots of videos of how they were attacking raiders and air defense positions of the Russian Federation in the area of the southern Zaporozhye, in the area of the southern Lugansk region. So in this video we can see how Ukrainians were attacking S-300 systems of the armored forces of the Russian Federation, how Ukrainians were attacking raiders with drones that use probably Starlink equipment that allows the Ukrainians to feel free on the territory of the southern Zaporozhye, Lugansk and Donetsk. So as of now, the Russians have problems with the situation. They're trying to improve their air defense positions, but since the beginning of this year, according to videos, the Russians have lost lots of air defense equipment that now most likely allows the Ukrainians to attack deep inside of the southern regions of the Russian Federation. Another important thing is the meeting that took place between the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, and the leader of Romania. According to information we have, Zelensky is trying to improve his energy infrastructure. I would like to remind you that currently there is a huge conflict between Ukraine, Slovakia, and Hungary, and very likely in coming days the Hungarians will stop supplying Ukraine with electricity and with energy, and this can lead to a critical situation in Ukraine if the Russians launch another massive missile drone attack. And by the way, according to different sources, the Russians are planning to attack Ukraine in coming hours. So that is why Zelensky is trying to improve his energy infrastructure by connecting Ukraine with Romania with energy line. So according to information we have, in coming months, Ukraine and Romania will finish building of several energy lines that go from the territory of Romania deep inside of Ukraine. Zelensky will try to connect Europe through additional lines through Romania. This will allow Zelensky to become less independent on energy that Ukraine receives from the territory of Hungary and Slovakia. So we'll see what is going to happen here, but obviously the Russians understand what is happening, and most likely during the next strikes the Russians may try to attack these objects of energy infrastructure as well. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 24 hours, lots of clashes and lots of updates were recorded on the line between the Zaporozhye direction and the Konstantinovka direction. Also, we have changes, and we have changes in the Dobropolye direction. During the previous night, pro-Ukrainian sources published a video where we can see how the Russians were moving in the most northern part of the settlement of Grishna under very heavy fire from the Ukrainian side with drones, with artillery. So this episode took place right exactly at this point. The Russian soldier was trying to hide in this building, and the Ukrainians attacked him with FPV drone. So based on this video that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, we have adjusted the map. So this is the end of the 12th of March, and this is the beginning of the 13th of March of 2026. And based on this video, we can make a conclusion that in coming days, most likely the Russians will finish the battle for this territory. Furthermore, during the nights, the Russians continue offensive operation in the southwestern part of the city of Konstantinovka. I would like to remind you that during the previous days, the Russians managed to improve their positions significantly along the city border without entering deep inside of the city itself. During the previous night, the Russians were attacking positions of the armored forces of Ukraine in the area of the western parts of the city of Konstantinovka with the purpose to launch the next wave of offensive operation in coming hours. So we believe that in coming days we will receive additional updates from the southwestern and the western parts of the city of Konstantinovka, where the Russians most likely would be able to stabilize the situation. Furthermore, we received lots of videos from the area between the cities of Konstantinovka and Alexeyevka-Drushkovka. Here we can see the video of the only supply line that Ukrainians have to support their forces on the territory of the city, and as you can see, this line was completely damaged. First of all, we are talking about protection nets that were established over the city, over the road N20. So now this road is completely unprotected, and the Russian drones are attacking everything they see in the radius of their activity. Another important thing is that the Ukrainians, it seems, that stopped completely their counter-offensive operation in the northern Zaporozhye direction. Either the Ukrainians are regrouping right now, or the Ukrainians are repelling the Russian counter-offensive operation that was launched several days ago. So we are waiting for additional updates from this area as well in coming hours, and maybe today the situation in this area will be revealed. And that's it for this short video. The military summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.